Welcome to the Red Podcast, a place for bold, inspired, outrageously courageous, and just a tad bit naughty women leaders come together. I'm Elayne Kalila, and I'm the founder of the Priestess Presence Temple, a sisterhood of over 80,000 women. For the past 25 years, I've had the great pleasure and privilege of supporting, inspiring, catalyzing, and initiating women to remember who they are. The Red Podcast is a place where you can come to lean into your edges, listen for that which yearns to be expressed more fully through you, and to say yes to the places that probably scare you. More importantly, I'm going to be talking with some amazing women who are spiritual and grounded, and we're going to be chatting about what it takes for each one of us to step into the legacy of our purpose and fully bring it to the world that we're here to co-create. Your presence is a gift, so I say bring it. We're here to listen to your red, your leading edge, that place of evolution within you. I hope you enjoy the conversations. Well, hello. Yeah, we're back with another episode of the Red Podcast. And so I am here today, so excited, because we're going to have a juicy conversation. That's all I'm going to say to you. I've got my beloved sister, Shah, with me. Oh my God, what can I say about this incredible woman? I mean, seriously, y'all, she is one of the most amazing ecstatic alchemists that I could ever imagine bringing to you. And what you may ask is that, well, she is a practitioner of practically, I don't even know, dozens of different modalities, sacred tantric arts, embodied dance. She is a musician and a hip-hop artist. She is like really one of these sisters who leads the way for all of us to step into the erotic, alive, expressive, sensual, wild, powerful, beautiful, tender, feminine. And so I can't think of anyone better to talk to about ecstatic alchemy than you. Welcome, Aja.
Thank you so much for that beautiful, heartfelt welcome. And I'm so grateful to be here. So grateful to have this conversation with you. And you're such a beautiful, ecstatic alchemist yourself. And I glean so much from you and from your grace and your beauty and your sensuousness. And so I'm deeply grateful for you because I've received so much from you. So I would be remiss to not mention that before I even begin.
Well, I'll let you all know that I had the great honor of meeting Aja. She's been part of our Rosa Mystica Mystery School, which is the mystery school that is the Magdalene Mystery School of Sacred Anointing. And, I know that you are deeply dedicated to raising the vibration of love and the healing of humanity through the reclamation of the sacredness of woman. Honey on my lips,
Honey-tongued word.
Right? Seriously. So, I think I'd love to start, Aja, is just for you to share a little bit about how did you come to the goddess? How did you find your way to this incredible work that you are doing? And what's your story there?
I think it was more of remembering her, and she was always there, as she always is, and always present. But, I grew up, as many of us did, in this more Abrahamic traditions and Western way of thinking and being in terms of religion and spirituality. But I also had a mother who, though she was very deeply Christian and sang in the gospel choir and took us to church every Sunday and Bible study and choir rehearsal with her, she was very much an embodied priestess as well, and not afraid of the esoteric arts. And they always interested me and called to me. And, she was a singer and she danced and she sang in jazz clubs. And, before I was born, she was a recording artist herself. And, very much a woman who loved art and beauty and food and all the things, sensuousness, all the things we think of when we think about engaging the senses. And, she encouraged my curiosity. So I would ask, I want to go to a palm reader or a tarot reader and all these things that I was interested in as a child. And she's like, okay. And so they very much were a part of her and a remembrance as well of some of these ancient priestess arts that we delve into now, herbs and plants and, plant medicines. And so I always, felt, I remember being a really, really young girl one time and sitting and saying, I'm so happy, like I'm in a female body. Like I love being a girl. I was a girl, and I was just like, I love this. And I had two brothers, and I was like, oh, y'all are so gross. And but I grew up in, very much what you would imagine a typical American. Oh, I guess I shouldn't say typical because not so much, but our stories are all, the same in some ways, same, but different. But grew up with two brothers and very much wanting, super girly, but also very much a tomboy and wanting to, to hang with them and do those martial arts. And I was into hip hop. So to make a very, very, very long story short, I always knew that I was always very comfortable in my body, embodied practices, these practices of moving and being in your body, had a lot of body awareness very young. So nothing that I did on my own, how I came here, and was always a dancer and a performer and very physical in the things I did, but also very much a reader. I have over 2,000 books in my house now at last count. So very, balanced in both ends, very mental and very physical at the same time. So I had this good balance. But I went down the path of music and became a hip hop artist and had a record deal, put out an album, and I started feeling uncomfortable with the images that I was being encouraged to promote, images that were being pushed in urban music and encouraged, and that I felt like I heard spirit speaking to me saying, this is not the path that you want to take. This is not what you are, here to do. You have a greater assignment. And I had two daughters at the time. And I remember looking at them saying, is this what I want them to emulate? And not that everything was all bad or not to ascribe bad or good to, but just not the most nourishing, nurturing, positive, influential force that I could be through music. And I watched this being encouraged in especially Black music. And I was like, I don't want to be a part of this. I don't want to be a part of the destruction in my community. And so I left the music industry, literally hearing this voice asking, is this what you want for your daughters? And it was no. And then I just went down that path, and that spiritual journey that began over 20 years ago, it took me down a lot of different paths, from originally delving back into Christianity and then mystical Christianity and yoga. And, I have a blood lineage into South India, Tamil Nadu, and West Africa and East Africa and Europe, and all these different cultures that just started saying, hey, these are our traditions. It's like the path was not a straight path. It was winding and spirally and sensuous and beautiful, and took me down all these different paths where I collected all these different practices and had the beautiful privilege of being able to travel around the world and sit at the feet of many masters and teachers and gurus and everyday folk to just receive from. And so that's as short as I can package it into a very, very, very long story, culminating into where I am now.
Which is where? Where would you say you are now?
Right now, I am completely and wholeheartedly devoted to love, to the Divine Mother. I always say this, I have a temple called Goddess Temple of Love, and it is in devotion to love. And it's this temple space is really a true offering of love and to the collective healing of not just women, but all beings, but in divine service to the goddess, to the feminine aspect of divinity, without negating the masculine at all, because it's both very much important. But it is our mission to really support the reclamation of the remembrance of the sacredness of woman, because she's always been sacred. We just have forgotten. And so really it is to help women heal, to awaken the divine architects of the womb, for men to know and understand that they, as they are stable pillars and understand the sacredness of woman as well, is just a benefit to them. That when women are elevated, that it doesn't press them down, that as women come back into their full power, into the full sensuousness and sacredness of what it means to be woman, that it only elevates her to be able to pour into him and nurture and nourish him as well. So it's for the benefit of all beings. And we do this through many, many different practices and traditions that I've been initiated into.
Woo! Let's just feel this trajectory from hip hop artist through to the decisions that you made, right? To really come back in full devotion and service. And by the way, y'all, you want to check out this website just to get a beauty blast on the goddesses.love.com temple.
Goddess Temple. Goddess Temple of Love.
Rather. Yeah, the Goddess Temple of Love.com. And I'm only telling you to go there really because I just went there this morning and I was like, oh my goodness. Like if you want to get a feel for this divine feminine energy, it's so beautifully expressed in your art and the way you put that together. So I want to just honor the journey you've been on and all of the integration from being a black belt in karate. Is that right?
I have a black belt in Tien Shin Pai in Kung Fu. It's a northern Chinese style of Kung Fu. And it's so funny. I've practiced martial arts my whole life. I practiced karate, then taekwondo, and when Kung Fu found me, that's what I ended up receiving a black belt in. But it was so beautiful because it's so flowy, and it's like we call it the deadly dance. It's so beautiful and flowy and circular instead of hard and straight lined and linear. That was the one that captured me.
I just love it. So here we are. This is what I'm talking about, this integration, right? The remembrance and integration of this masculine and feminine within. That's what I'm really hearing, from the black belt in Kung Fu through to being a womb sauna practitioner, through to being a tantric yogini, a shakta. And I wonder, I just would love you to talk a little bit about the womb work that you do, just because I think that this is something that women are still coming to understand. And I know it's been a journey for me to really come into connection with my womb, not just as the physical organ of my womb, but also the understanding of the womb of all creation, the womb of the goddess, that we're born from her, unto her, that we are never disconnected from her. And I would love to have you talk a little bit into this womb magic, womb healing work that's part of, only just one facet of what you do, but there's an alchemy there that I think is so important. Would you be willing to just dive into that with us for a little bit?
Absolutely. The womb and the power of the womb that we've so often forgotten or been shamed for throughout time. The blood was in ancient times considered holy, considered sacred. And that got twisted somewhere. We forgot the power. The patriarchal indoctrination that saw us as too powerful and wanted to bring us down. And so we've forgotten the real power of the womb, as you mentioned, not just from a physical organ that's able to give birth, to give life to creation, but all of the mysteries of the universe reside in there. I think it's when we look at it as truly, truly a microcosm of the macrocosm, and that holographic imprint that it is of the cosmos, we find like all the mysteries of the universe there. And it doesn't matter if you still have a womb or not, because that energetic, the divine architects, the body is sacred geometry. And so there's divine architects throughout the body, the goddesses in the tantric tradition. And these architects have different abilities and powers. And so when there's so many different layers to this. I'm trying to not go down too many different rabbit holes with it and keep it just within a context of something that can be easily explained for something that's not so easily explained, but that has to be felt and experienced. But this tradition of, you think about the Holy Grail in our womb, the yoni. And in Sanskrit, we often talk about the yoni, and we think that we're just talking about, it's often when it's used referring just to the vagina, just to the sexual organs. But it really is talking about the whole entire female reproductive organ, and this being the Holy Grail. And in the tantric tradition, the reason that there's so much importance given to woman and the womb, the yoni, this holy sacred grail, is because it is a complete holographic imprint of the divine mother herself. We understand that even this mysteries that lie within us, the mysteries that we have, it's not about even being a feminist or a sexist idea. It's a tradition that supports the growth of both men and women. And then when we understand the significance of the womb and how much how powerful this energy is, because we are living embodiments of the divine mother of creation and the guardians of the Holy Grail, then we come to understand that, okay, there's more to this than just this physical organ. And it's magnetic. It draws everything in. It's a very yin receptive organ. And when we are out of balance within our womb as women, the rest of our being is out of balance, and everything is affected in that way. If we think about one of the most detrimental things to women's female hormonal health, which governs how we act, how we behave, how we move, our emotional balance, is stress. And so we're in a society that's constantly putting pressure and stress on us, which throws our hormones completely out of whack, completely out of balance, throwing our emotions completely out of balance, causing tons of womb maladies, womb illnesses. And we're a culture that you listen a lot of times, they're happy, like, oh, I'm so glad I'm getting a hysterectomy. I'm getting this thing out of me. I've heard conversations where women are like, oh, I couldn't wait to get this hysterectomy, to have this, because we don't understand and the significance of the womb, the power of the womb, and how important it is that we once again empower our wombs energetically and physically, so that we can fully walk out our assignments here. Our passion, our compassion, that energy, it's not just we can create from the womb physically and energetically, but what are we creating? What is the state of the womb? Are we honoring it as holy and sacred? Are we honoring the blood? Are we honoring the wisdom that we become after we no longer have the blood? Or are we looking at and still seeing and viewing ourselves as dirty, as we need to be set aside during that time? We were set aside in ancient times during that time because of the power that the blood had. So there's, so many different reasons and whys to caring for the womb energetically and physically. But this tantric tradition of empowering and awakening the divine architects in the womb, this is what really makes us embodiments of the goddess, embodiments of the feminine aspect of divinity. When our biology changes, when we are beautiful inwardly radiant when that's coming up, when we are the wisdom on the inside. You talk about the wisdom goddesses in Tantra, the Dasha Mahavidyas, and they reside inside the body, and many of them in the womb and in the yoni, and they're the wisdom. And when we awaken that, because the womb is cleared of energetic imprints, it's cleared of dis-ease, then we're able to awaken the wisdom on the inside of us and then move in a way that is beneficial for all of humanity. We're not looking at ourselves as, I'm not good enough for this, or I'm not that, or she's better, or projecting on the outside world, or having the outside world projected upon us, but we're actually able to come into this realization of the oneness of being and the power that we have on the inside. And it's just so beautiful when that is awakened through something as simple yet as complex as the female womb, the womb of creation, and our connection with the Divine Mother. You know, when we get to that stage where everything is grace, where everything is beautiful, where the world is beautiful, and even in the midst of suffering, we can see beyond the illusion. We need to clear the energetic gunk of the womb, the imprinting that's happened in the womb of woman collectively, so that we can remember. And I know that was still long and in different directions, but it's like so many different ways we can go when we talk about the womb and the Holy Grail and her power.
My gosh, you know, we could talk all day about this, right? We could have a whole week.
It would be never ending,
right? A week-long retreat just on this conversation.
Just
and I wanted
the blood mysteries, just on the womb.
Exactly. And there's so many, I'm teeming with questions, you know, just to kind of tease apart some of what you've said. And one of the things, there's so many, gosh. There's so many. But one of the things that you just said is fascinating to me, and I'd love you to talk a little bit more about this. And you were talking about awakening the divine architect in the womb. That sentence, and I was like, ooh, who is the divine architect in the womb? Let's talk about that. And then this whole idea that we are a living embodiment of the goddess. And I think that this has been so removed, particularly in our Western minds, as even being a possibility, right? We were so separated from the mother, from the goddess, from the God being within us, that this idea that we are a living embodiment and that we actually can activate this goddess energy, these wisdom goddesses inside our bodies. I'd love you to talk about both of those a little bit more. And what are some of the ways that we can actually do that? If there's a very simple practice that you want to share, or, you know, an idea around that, I think it could help us to really just anchor that as not some esoteric knowledge, but actually living within us. And I think that I'd love to have you talk a bit more about that, Asha.
So there, in the Shakta Tantra tradition, we speak of the Dasha Mahavidyas, the 10 wisdom goddesses that are within all of us. And really all we have to do is invoke them. So those goddesses are Kali and Tara and Tripura Sundari and Bhuvaneshwari and Chinamasta and Bhairavi and Dumavati and Bagalamukhi and Matangi and Kamalamika or Kamala. And they reside in various parts of the body. So you think of the body as the Sri Yantra and the sacred geometry. But when there's specific architects within the womb and that govern the womb, and when with their female and this feminine goddess energy help to bring about a cosmic balance within the earth realm and within our bodies. And so there are, in the tradition that I'm initiated into, which is a traditional tantric lineage, which, you know, often in the West, we think about Tantra and we think about Tantra in terms of sex. And contrary to popular belief, Tantra is not about better sex, though when you engage in tantric practices, if you are sexually active, you should be having a better sexual experience by being a tantric. However, tantra itself is not just about better sex. It's not just about coming to higher levels of consciousness through sex and sexual union, but it really is a way of life. It's science. It's a spiritual practice, this technology that transforms us on all levels of existence. And so you can be a tantric and be celibate. But back to awakening the divine architects of the womb, these energies within the womb that are wise, this wisdom, this female wisdom, this feminine wisdom on the inside of us, but that also create. And to awaken those through the path that I am initiated into, we use mantra shastra, we use mantra and sound. And through all of the practices that I have been initiated into in various ways, and they're all beautiful and they're all valid, and they are all, in my opinion, necessary for me at least. But mantra, the mantra shastra, and using mantra and sound in specific ways to awaken, especially in the womb. The womb is primarily governed by water, by the element of water. And water, we know, is affected by sound. You study cymatics, the study of sound on matter, and how sound has literally the ability to alter DNA. So this is scientific as much as it is esoteric, but we know that water is affected greatly by sound, and sound at specific frequencies has the ability to alter DNA. Our DNA has literally been altered through trauma, ancestral trauma, the traumas that we currently face in the world, the stress that we face. We know that trauma can be passed on a good 7 years, even without you experiencing the trauma that your ancestors have. So using sound, you're able to literally alter your DNA. DNA is made up by hydrogen bonds or water. And we're able to heal on a cellular level and reprogram our DNA by using sound. And so we use I had been practicing yoga asana and many feminine embodiment, beautiful feminine embodiment practices, even yoga, sacred dance, there's moving meditations, pranayama, mudra, mantra, conscious consumption, ways of awakening the heart, and ritual and ceremony, and all of these practices. But the most powerful, transformative practice that I really saw a shift when I added that into this beautiful mix of feminine embodiment practices was this ancient tantric practice of using mantra in a very specific way, directed at specific points in the body, using the bija seed mantras for specific goddesses or divine architects within the womb and other parts of the body. So I'll give you a simple one for women, and this is not directly for the womb, but it does help to balance the pineal and pituitary gland to help balance hormone levels. And that's simply Om and I'm. Om and I'm, A-I-M. And chanting them, holding the O short. A lot of times we chant Om and we hold that O long. We hear the chanting of Om. And when you do that, you feel it resonate in the heart, which is beautiful. And we do that sometimes. But if you chant Om with a short O and a long M, Om, and hold that as long as you can, because I can hold it really long, so I'm not going to do that to you right now. And then I'm the same way with the short I. It's spelled A-I-M, but pronounced like I'm with the short I, long M. Then you'll get that, you'll feel them resonate in the brain, and you will feel that energy bouncing back and forth between the pituitary and pineal gland. because there's so many mantras and so many ways that I teach them and where to direct them in the body. That one is the most simple to do on interview, like Om and I'm, chanting those Om 9 times, I'm 9 times, or chanting them both for, if you can sit for 30 minutes and do that. When I was initiated into the path, my guru would have me sit for 2 hours, which he still does sometimes, chanting different mantras. But this has been the most powerful, transformative practice on every level. And it really just took everything else to the next level. And so when I have offerings and women come and they're drawn to the beauty of, as you mentioned, the website and the dance, and you feel the love and the love that is being cultivated and the sensuousness that's being cultivated, I always tell them that the power, the catalyst behind that really helped to drive it to that point was the mantra practice, because it's so often overlooked, because we love to do like I love doing that. I love dancing. Like I love moving and doing mudras and feeling into that. But it was awakening the wisdom goddesses on the inside through mantra shastra, which really made everything come alive for me. So I share it in every class I teach, every retreat I have. We're chanting mantras and it really, really awakens something on the inside of them. Because even when you think about all the creation stories, in every single creation story, in every single tradition, the word, the sound what preceded creation. This is what birthed forth. And all of creation. So I got chills like right now, like literally the hair on my arms standing up right now, because it's so overlooked and it's so simple.
Oh, yes. And as you're sharing this, love, what's getting activated in me is that connection between, the yantras, which are the sacred geometries, right? The sacred form that all life takes as it comes into form, from formlessness, through these geometric patterns that we see fractalized and repeated. And then the mantra comes to activate, right? That activates it, and the mudra seals it into the body. And so I love that you talked about all of this, right? This is about how we incarnate into physical form. And I think one of the things that I get so juiced about, and it's partly because I'm also an ecstatic alchemist, and that's my realm of joy, working with the energies of how do we come into form and be here in this body? And I want to talk about this for a moment, because the models that we've been given in the West particularly is that we are here to transcend this body and then we'll reach the Garden of Eden, right? That's the primary idea of Christianity, which it was, by the way, the Christianity that we know about in the West has nothing to do with what Jesus taught. I just want to say that.
Yes.
Right? That's, Jesus and Mary Magdalene taught a very different form of Christianity that wasn't even called Christianity back then. It was something else, the way of love. But what we've been given is this model that basically says that the body is to be eschewed. The body is dirty, sinful. We are sinful in our humanity. Women are especially sinful because Eve ate that apple in the Garden of Eden, and Magdalene apparently was a whore, right? These stories that we've been given, right? And Lilith.
Right, these stories.
Right. And Lilith was thrown out of the garden for saying no to lying down and being in the missionary position. So, these are the stories that we have our culture built on, that have been used as evidence as to why women, particularly, why our bodies are to be eschewed. But all of our bodies have been treated in this way. And one of the things I love about what you're saying is we have to remember, right? This is a path of remembrance. We have to remember that we are holy. And everything that you're speaking is about recognizing and remembering that the body is sacred. And so, right? And so I would love to just deepen a little bit more with this goddess of love energy around, the imminence of coming into the embodied state. What does that even really mean? Because I think we use that word, right? A lot. Embodied. But what
Yeah.
does it actually mean to be embodied?
Exactly. So to be embodied really is to feel into the feminine aspect of divinity. As you mentioned before, it's, we have been pounded with transcendence as being the way. Transcend this body. This body is no good. This body, women are temptresses. Their body is going to draw you away from God. This, all of these things to take us away from the feminine aspect of divinity. And there is something to be said about transcendence, but we need both. We need immanence and we need transcendence. And women especially need to be fully embodied, whereas we are the embodiments of the feminine aspect of divinity. It is so important for us to be fully embodied, to be fully awake in our bodies, to really truly know and understand that our bodies are our sacred temple and that there is no shame in our bodies and that we can very much be sensual and sexual and sacred and holy, and there is no virgin whore split, that these things are reconciled and we understand that we are the totality of all of them. And so when we begin to cultivate, because we've forgotten, it's been taken away from us, and it was just been the masculine aspect of divinity and transcendence and transcending the body and going beyond and crucifying our flesh. There is something to having discipline. But when you go too far in one way or the other, then you cause an issue there. So when we start to cultivate a conscious, intimate relationship with the goddess, with this feminine aspect of divinity as she lives within each of us, we think about immanence as drawing down divinity into our human body. And that's the feminine way. And then transcendence as moving from the physical body to the spiritual realm as the masculine energetic. And again, we need both. If we just go all full out body and nothing else matters, we'll destroy ourselves. If we go all full out transcendence and I don't want to be here, again, we destroy ourselves just in a different way. And so when we have a healthy understanding for it, bring into balance and in a feminine body, I would say, if you think about the yin and yang symbol, this symbol is dynamic, the black with the white dot, the white with the black dot, and it's actually spinning and moving because it's all one, non-dual. And the black is the feminine with that little bit of masculine energetic, and the white is the masculine with the black dot of feminine energetic. And so as women, as feminine essence beings, or if you are identify as that, then it's more important that you spend more time embodied, and then you still transcend. We naturally transcend as women. We have that natural intuition. That's part of the reason in the tantric tradition that the woman is regarded as higher spiritually, not better than, not greater than, but spiritually higher and more connected, because we can easily access the other worlds, the other realms. We can more easily access. And when we go there and then we come back, there's still no veil. There's no split. Whereas men, it's a little bit more difficult. The masculine, it's a little more difficult to access, needs more practices, which is, we could go all into yoga, and the yoga practices that are taught primarily now are really men's practices. They're really for pre-adolescent, prepubescent boys to try to restrain that sexual energy and to help them to be able to focus and conceptualize spirit and all those things, really for masculine male bodies. There were whole different teachings of yoga for women, but that's a whole nother story. But when we are embodied, we revere immanence, being in our body, seeing our body as sacred, knowing our body as sacred, feeling into pleasure and sensuousness and sensuality, which comes from the heart, as just as sacred as transcendence, as just as sacred as being able to transcend this body. So we're in it and we're feeling it and we're loving it and we're enjoying it and we're enjoying all of our senses and really being in touch with that. And we're not identified with it at the same time. That's being a fully embodied feminine woman, embodying the goddess. Because when you awaken the wisdom on the inside, you know and understand I can enjoy every single aspect of being a woman, every single aspect of engaging my sense of taste, of touch, of sound, of smell, hearing. All of these things I can completely embrace and love, and allow them to awaken my heart of love and draw me into the creation, the creator behind it. Draw me into that. So I'm not identified with it, but I enjoy it and I love it. And it's just as sacred and holy as sitting here in meditation with my eyes closed and being able to transcend this body. So there's realms of the arts. When we dive into poetry and music and dance, these are all feminine essence, feminine energetic practices, dreams and symbols and divination and nature and animals and flowers and beauty and mudras. All of this is just this feminine energy that's so beautiful. And we don't stay attached to it either. We know that it is all temporal, but we can enjoy it. So
I love that.
That's what embodiment is.
Asha, that's such a beautiful distinction of the full immersion into the sensual world, but knowing that it is temporal and not becoming attached. And that's obviously in many of the paths that are transcendent based, that's what they'll say is, don't get stuck in the world of illusions of the mire of the body, right? And then what people have made that mean is oh, you've got to avoid being in our bodies.
Crucify that flesh. Yeah.
I know, right? Seriously.
Just completely abstain.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for that path. Some people are here to go down that path. That may be the path they need to go down in this lifetime, but it's not the only path and the only way. And it may not be your path and your way in this lifetime. And so when we know and understand that there's many, many ways, and there's something to be said for all of them, but what is the way for you? What is going to work for you? We like to put things in nice, neat little boxes and say, this is what you should do. And this is how you should do it in order to transcend, in order to go to heaven, in order to come back or not come back, to get off the wheel of some scar. Like we hear these things, but every path is not for every person. It really just depends. And there's some people that come here with, that have addictions, that the world of Tantra and using the embodiment practices and being fully embodied and being able to tap in that way, that may not be a safe path for you. It's possible that you may need to go more of a renunciant path, but that's not for me to decide, And so just knowing and understand that there are a lot of different ways. It depends on what imprints you came into this world with. But if we have that embodied, if we as women, we all of us though, should be able to love, nurture, nourish, and really feel deeply from our hearts and love our body as a temple. And that does not mean that we can't enjoy all the sensations and pleasures that come with being embodied and still be sacred and holy and be able to transcend this body, which is where that masculine white dot of transcendence comes in.
Right? Woo!
Yes.
So I want to invite us all for a moment. That was just, wow, that was so rich and so activating, and this message around, there's so many paths leading us to the one, right? To that one place, that experience of God, Goddess, both within us, around us, the whole universe, that whole idea that we are here to marry that together within ourselves, and I know that you're deeply connected into that, also that very early Christian or Gnostic tradition, which is to do with the Heros Gamos, the sacred marriage of the divine and the human, which is really what we're talking about here.
Yes.
Right? And I want to just invite everybody who's listening to feel this bubbling, effervescent energy that Aja has, that's so generous and excited around this possibility of us embodying heaven on earth, right? Living in the Garden of Eden that exists within every single one of us, returning home to that. And the realm of beauty and touch and taste and sight. And just maybe even take a moment right now just to look around where you're sitting and just notice the beauty. Notice something beautiful that you can see or smell or hear or, that's in your presence, and just let yourself be in the presence of that experience. This is one of my favorite embodiment practices is when I'm way up in my head, which I love to analyze and think and study, and I'm kind of nerdy on that level. I know you are a bit too.
Me too, yes.
Right? We both share that, right? So I'm not always down here in my body, honey. So I gotta tell you, I'm sometimes surfing the library of Sophia up there doing my transcendence work, but I have to remember, because this is a remembrance that we have been devoid of, right, for so many centuries, to come back down and into my embodied experience of being here and actually feel my aliveness, feel that animation of the divine within us, and let it be here as much as it is in the other worlds that I go visit so often. So, Asha, I'm so excited. I know you've just run a retreat in Tulum with a whole bunch of women who came and got to drink of the nectar of the goddess with you. So I don't know if you've got anything upcoming that you want to share about, or how people can get in contact with you. We'll have your websites listed on the podcast page, but is there anything you want to share right now that's coming up, or that you would love to invite people to look at?
Absolutely. Thank you for that generous offer to share.
Oh, sure.
And I offer a 12-week course twice a year. The next one is beginning in September at fall equinox, and it's called Embodying the Goddess, a return to sensuousness and embodied love. And it is within it, within the 12-week course, we dive into all the various practices that I use, including the mantra shastra, to awaken the goddess on the inside and to really return to grace. Because through trauma, through fear, through abuse, through oppression, and the religious dogma that we talked about, that we know that women have just been collectively conditioned, especially now, to be aggressive and competitive and jealous and overtly and distortedly hypersexualized, or either frigid and shut down. And so really we've forgotten that original grace and that way of being just in our female bodies, reconnecting to our truest feminine essence and learning how to really radiate love from the heart and become a magnetic force. Understanding that magnetism, that female magnetism, is a powerful force. It is not anything meek or submissive, but it's not aggressive in what we've seen it to be. We see them portrayed, and we promote and push women that are outwardly so aggressive, and it's really detrimental, to everyone around. And there is a way of being assertive and a confident woman sitting back on your throne, magnetizing in your female power on your throne of grace, and magnetizing to you everything that is yours, without clawing, without grasping, without begging, without pleading, just knowing and understanding what is truly yours is for you, getting grounded and rooted so your destiny can find you, and really allowing being a woman, being a feminine embodied woman, to be your spiritual path. And so everything else is a tool, everything else is just a tool. This body, this sacred cosmology is a sacred path. It is a spiritual path. And everything else, the rituals, the ceremony, the movement, the sacred dance, the feminine form yoga, the pranayama, the meditations, the walking and connecting with nature, the slowing down, pausing and eating in a sensuous way, the remembering how to move in a very sensuous way, awakens something on the inside. But it is this body as temple, this body as sacred cosmology that becomes the path. And so this is offered twice a year, and this. So what you saw on that? Yes,
totally. I'm like, oh my goodness, wow.
Such a women that come I'm beyond humbled and so grateful because every time I sit down to offer this, you know, my guru, if he reminds me of nothing else, he reminds me that I am teaching nothing, that I have, and I want to give credit and honor to you, Elayne, because you have really, truly, in your teachings and your transmissions of being in empty presence, have been so powerful in my own work, because when I am fully able to come into empty presence, to empty myself, of my stuff, and just allow the Divine Mother to pour into me and teach through me, then it's such a powerful transmission for the women that are there. And it takes the pressure off of me. It's not me.
Doesn't it?
I'm like, I'm not teaching y'all anything. This is the Divine Mother in her fullness and her glory, giving you all what you need. And so I've able to move myself out of the way and really be a channel. And a lot of that way of being and sitting in that empty presence I received from watching you sit in empty presence and pour into others. And so I'm really grateful. I'm grateful for that and grateful for you. And so any woman that wants to find out more about the 12-week Embodying the Goddess course, information is available at goddesstempleoflove.com. And we begin September 22nd, and registration is open now. And there are payment plans available, and it is so reasonably priced because it has been so transformative for every woman, and hundreds of women have come through, that I said I have to keep it reasonably priced because more women need access to the work. And then we have the in-person retreats as well that come at the end of each one of these 12-week sessions. So
yum, yum, yum. Well, in closing, I'm going to ask you the red questions. Yes, it's time for the red questions.
Oh, this is interesting.
So I ask everybody these questions at the end of the Red podcast. And Red obviously is the pseudonym of the Magdalene. She's the one who instigated and pushed me into this role. She said, do this podcast. And I said, okay, Mom, here I am. And these are her questions. Okay, Asha, are you ready? What do you avoid but secretly yearn to express?
Probably more music. More music that I need to express.
Yeah, I was just thinking about you. I had that thought. A few moments ago, I was like, is Asha making music? Like, are you singing? What's the new iteration of that hip hop artist now?
Well, I did put out a new album that is the new iteration of her that came out a year. Well, that was out about a year and a half ago. I have to send you those videos, Elayne.
I want it. Yeah.
It's time to work on a new project. So there's a new project that has been bubbling inside that I've been yearning to express, but I haven't yet, and not quite sure why. So I'm just still sitting in that.
Now, well, she's calling you. Ma's calling you. Now, my next question is, what are you devoted to?
Oh, I am devoted to love. I am devoted to woman in all her forms and facets. I am devoted to raising the vibration of love on the planet for the benefit of all beings. Creating this new earth, really, really, really and truly devoted to the Divine Mother and her love.
Beautiful. What fire did you come here to burn?
Oh, Elayne, these questions.
Hey, not from me. This is from her, by the way.
Oh, thank you, Mother. Let's see. What fire did I come here to burn? The fire of passion, fire of igniting and sparking change in the world, beginning with ourselves. The fire of our spiritual practices really transforming, being transformational on every level of being. So,
Yes. So beautiful. And then this last question is, what is the most revealing thing about you, Aja, that you hide? I know, right? She's cheeky. She likes to push that edge a little.
Okay, let's wait. Repeat that one more time.
Okay, you need to all hear it one more time. Like, it goes like this. She says, Aja, what is the most revealing thing about you that you actually hide?
The most revealing thing about me that I actually hide. So many things that I don't hide. I would say that because so many things that I used to hide, I don't hide.
I know, right? You have to
So
reach
it's like,
for it now.
I feel like, yeah, it's like before I'd had a lot of answers for you. Now, what do I hide that, something that I hide? This is really hard. Like, this is really hard. I think the one thing that's coming up is so not deep at all. It's like, this has been a really deep conversation. Then it's like, how funny and silly you are. Like, I am the biggest clown ever. And and I sit and I teach and we do all these beautiful flowy practices, and I go really deep and transcend, and we talk about really deep spiritual things and read beautiful poetry, and and we sing and we chant and we do yoga and all this, and then I'm like the biggest goofball ever. Like, as soon as it's done, I'm like, okay, it's jokes all day. And my kids are like, you are so funny. So people that are really, really close to me, they see the funny. So I think I hide my funny sometimes, unless those are really close to me.
I hear you, because you're out there teaching. Yeah. I celebrate your goofball. I am also really quirky and quite ridiculous, and so that's really part of why I started out to do the Red podcast for myself, was because I was like, I need to bust a move. Like, I spend all my time in empty presence, training people how to get empty and channel the goddess. And I'm like, I'm over here and I'm like, actually, you know what? I'm really kind of quirky and a bit odd. And I want to celebrate that about us. So Red is about celebrating all of us, every aspect of who you are. It's for women who are leading from the edge, birthing new worlds through our bodies, our hearts, our minds, in all the delicious diversity that we are. And so I want to just thank you, my darling sister, Aja. I'm sure this is the first of many conversations that we can be having to deepen into. And I want to thank your generosity for sharing your heart with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me to be here, and I'm so grateful. I'm so great, and I'm looking forward to visiting you. We were supposed to have a visit in June, and the time didn't align. So
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen sometime soon. It will happen. All right, sweetheart. You have a beautiful rest of your day. For everybody who's listening, I'm encouraging you to lean into your red edge, and that's wherever you're being called to more fully express yourself, to more fully share of yourself, to be more fully alive. Whatever that is for you, I'm encouraging you to lean into that edge and let me know about it. Let me know how I can support you in your vision of yourself, in your practices, in your heart. We'll be back very soon with our next episode of the Red Podcast, which is for women just like you who are yearning to be more alive and more fully embodied. Bless you all. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye for now. I want to thank you for listening to this episode of the Red Podcast. It's been an honor to have you here with us. As Red women, we are here leading from the edges of our own evolution, birthing new worlds into being through our bodies, our hearts, our minds, and our beautiful presence. If you would like to be in contact with me, I love hearing from you. You can find me on Instagram at Elayne.Kalila or over on my website, ElayneKalila.com. And lastly, I'd like to invite you, if you loved this episode, to go ahead and share this with someone that you think might enjoy it too. It's through us sharing our hearts with one another and inspiring one another that we reveal our red, that evolutionary edge that is just waiting to be fully expressed in all aspects of our world. Until next time, many, many blessings.